What's going on? Welcome to episode 23 of the Hike Files podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Zitzelman, and this week we're going to talk about camp luxuries, hiking luxuries, backpacking luxuries. Initially, I was just going to do things that I thought were luxuries, and it was a pretty short list. So I looked online to see what other people thought were camp luxuries, and some of these things were mind-boggling. So that's what I'm going to use as my reference for this week's episode. I've got 25 things that other people consider camp luxuries. Some of them I can see, some of them just are head scratchers. So I've put the links below in the show notes to the 4 sites I pulled these from. A lot of them were repetitive from site to site, so I pulled out the ones that were unique between all the different lists that I saw. I think it was like a top 20, a top 10, a top 9, top 25, something like that. There was a whole bunch of them, but a lot of them are similar. So no particular order, just in the way that I found them. We're going to start with these lists. And before I get into it, if there's something that you consider a luxury when you're hiking or camping or backpacking, whatever, and you don't hear it on this list, shoot me an email at hike.files@gmail.com and let me know. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just leave a comment in the comments below the video. So you can go ahead and do that. So let's jump right into this. The 25 camp luxuries I found on the internet. This is according to the internet. Not all of them I think are luxuries. So number 1, a camp chair. Okay, that's a luxury. It depends on where you are. And this is something I consider a luxury. A camp chair, sometimes you need it. If you're on something like the Appalachian Trail or a more popular trail, or you know you're going to a campsite that's a little more popular, you may find log or stone seats already made, and then you really only need a sit pad. But on more remote trails, yeah, you're going to need a camp chair. A lot of stuff here in the backpacking loops we have, these big backpacking loops, a lot of them don't have any kind of camp chair built into them. Some do, but it's not very common. So that's a good one. That's a good start. Number 2, a camp table. Maybe for car camping. I know they do make some smaller stake-style camp tables. They're like an umbrella, but they're flat on top, like a table. And then there's just one post that you stick into the ground. And I see some hammock campers using those. Those seem pretty cool. That would be a good luxury to have. For me, though, I don't know. You got the ground right there. Unless you know you're going to be on really uneven ground, anything you need to set down, you can just put on the ground. So that a table really is a luxury. Number 3, this one kind of confused me a little bit. Camp luxury of a stove. Now, I know a lot of people do cold soak, or they bring food, no-cook food options, which is good for short distance, but no-cook food is heavy. Now, if you're going somewhere that there's not a lot of water, then you want to take ready-to-eat, probably no-cook options, because you're not going to have the water to boil. But if you're trying to save weight, you're going to want to bring dehydrated. And yes, you can cold soak that, but a lot of times it takes longer. And some stuff you just don't want to eat cold. Also, a stove works well if your filter breaks down and you need to boil water. You can't always get a fire started. It's not always loud, and sometimes everything's wet and you really can't get a fire started. So having a stove is, to me, that's not a luxury. That's something you should probably have anyway, unless you have extra means of boiling water or purifying water. I should say not boiling water, but so yeah, that one kind of struck me as odd. Number 4, camp shoes, water shoes. Luxury, I do carry these sometimes. I have a pair of these bright yellow, they're like outdoor slippers. They've got a really good sole on the bottom, so they're comfortable to walk in when you're outside. They don't have a lot of lateral support, but they do work. They do their job. And they do help your feet on longer trips. Water shoes, if you know you're going to have a long, like big water crossings, that's not a bad option to have. I carry my kayak shoes with me sometimes because they're very light. They don't have a real great sole on them, but if I know I got to do some big water crossings, I will take those. I mean, you can cross barefoot, but for me, it's always a lot of places where you're crossing, there could be people fishing there. And if there's hooks And people break bottles and there's glass and stuff like that. I don't want to be walking around barefoot if I don't have to. So that can just be a trip ender if you step on a hook or glass or something like that when you're trying to cross a creek. That's a good luxury to take with you, yes. Number 5, a small towel. Yeah, I usually carry one. I don't really consider it a luxury because they are pretty small, like the pack towels. They are good to have. But yeah, I could see that being considered a small, like a camp luxury, if maybe a little bit bigger than like a pack towel. They are handy wiping down your gear in the morning if it's wet, especially if you got something like Dyneema that doesn't absorb the water. You can, if it's not going to dry off by itself before you pack it down, you can wipe it down with a pack towel and it's almost 100% dry by the time you pack it away. So yeah, that's a decent luxury to put in there. Number 6, a camp mug. Okay, yeah, I can see it as being a luxury. I carry a small cup with me, and I've got the pot that I boil my water in, so that doubles as a mug. But maybe if you're just looking for something, you got a special mug, it just brings you comfort. Yeah, I could see that being a decent luxury. I don't know that's worth the extra weight unless it brings you a lot of comfort, but that little, I think it's a Sea to Summit collapsible cup, the X cup, I think it's called. The X-Therm cup. It's got like these fins on the side, so you can put boiling water in it. It doesn't burn your hands. That thing is awesome. And that is my camp mug. So yeah, I guess that's a luxury item I take with me. It's pretty light too. Back into the head scratchers with number 7. The camp/hiking luxury of trekking poles. I wouldn't really consider those a luxury. I use my trekking poles mostly for my shelter. And a lot of these sites, these people are showing these tents they're using, and they are trekking pole tents. You need to have a trekking pole. It's not a luxury. That would be part of your shelter. And they're just good for safety. If you don't use them a lot, like I don't, mine aren't ultra light. They're like maybe just under a pound a piece. I throw them in my backpack. They trifold, so I put them in there. I don't even realize they're there. But they are great to have, especially if you're by yourself. You got some treacherous terrain. They are just a good safety thing to have. So I wouldn't really consider trekking poles a luxury, but I guess it depends on how you hike. Number 8, this is a good luxury item. It's like a category, a book, an e-reader, card games, like headphones for podcasts, something like that. Some kind of entertainment. It can get, you might get to camp early, or you might get to camp and just be like, you know what? I just want to not think about anything. And you can just sit there and you'll read a book or listen to a podcast, or if you got somebody with you, you can play a game. Even like a game on your phone, you can just kill some time. Sometimes that's all you really need. So that's not a bad one. Number 9, camp pillow. This really depends, I think, on the person. For me, in a hammock, a pillow is a luxury. You don't really need a pillow in a hammock. I guess you don't really need a pillow in a tent. You can use your clothes or your backpack or something like that and just bundle them up. But I think on the ground, a pillow is more of a necessity. You don't need a huge pillow. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that siren out there. Yeah, it's not really a necessity if you're in a hammock, but on the ground, I consider a pillow a necessity. So it's I consider it a luxury in a hammock, but if I was using a tent, I'd definitely have one. Number, a solar lantern. Some people just said lantern, a tent lantern, something like that, but some kind of lantern. Sure, you're probably going to have a headlamp anyway, and a lantern is just, it could be luxury or it could be pure misery, depending on the bug situation next to you, because you will get bugs. But yeah, I can see how that would be a luxury item, especially if it's a solar lantern, because if you got it on your backpack and it's charging up, you always have a light. You're going to be out for a few days, your headlamp dies, you're trying to charge it up. Having that extra lantern would be very nice. So most of those were from the first page I went to, alexisabroad.com. And then they had a list of other luxuries under that. And some of these were weird. Bug head net. Depending on the area you're going to, that might be a necessity. But okay, luxury item. They're small, they're light, they don't weigh much. And they do make your experience a lot better if you're in a very buggy area like Vermont, which is very, very buggy. Number 12, from this additional list they had on this webpage, was a hammock. And then their reasoning was to lounge around camp or to sleep in. If you're using it to sleep in, that is your shelter. That's not a luxury. You need that. You need a hammock. if that's your sleep system. That's not a luxury. If you're just using it as a chair or to lounge around in, sure. But if you're going to put on there or to sleep in, that would be a necessity. I saw this one on a couple of lists. Number 13, a swimsuit. Maybe it's just me. I'm not a big swimmer when I'm backpacking. If I'm camping, car camping, that's a different thing because it's like more of a vacation. Extra change of clothes. Again, that depends on the length you're out for. A swimsuit, though, I don't really see that. I guess maybe for some people that would be a luxury. Number 14, this one, you're definitely not backpacking with a solar shower. I'm not sure where these people are backpacking, where they're taking solar showers. Number 15, a clothesline. Okay, I can see that. If you're using a tarp with a ridge line, then you could use that. But sure, clothesline. If you're going to be out for a few days, you want to dry your clothes. Maybe you're going to wash them in a creek or something like that. Okay, clothesline. Number 16. This is definitely a tent camper thing that I would never have even thought of. A mini broom and dustpan to keep the tent clean. Can't you just shake it out? You just lift up and shake it? Do you need a broom and dustpan? That is ultra luxury right there. Number 17, a portable charger, like a power bank. Again, if you're taking a Kindle and you're taking a phone, you're taking a camera, you're taking a headlamp, that becomes a necessity. Not really, to me, I don't see that as a luxury. That's in this day and age, unless you're not taking any electronics, it is absolutely. Yeah. Well, I guess if you're not really a phone person and you're just going to take one, I don't know why you'd have one then. So if you're taking it, it's probably a necessity. Number 18, a massage ball. Number 18, a massage ball. This I understand. I think they had it for like your feet. And a lot of times I'll use if I've got my hard side bottle with me, my water bottle, I'll use that. And I'll put that on the ground. I'll rub my feet or roll my feet over top of it. And it does. If you're having problems with your feet, that really does help. You can roll out your muscles and it releases whatever the toxins are that are in there. And it does help you feel better. That is a decent luxury item. Number 19, a tripod. I guess it depends on what you're doing. If you're out there to take photos, it's a necessity. If you might take photos, then maybe it's a luxury. That one I don't know about. That one's kind of weird. Number 20, wipes, baby wipes or facial wipes. Yeah, luxury. You don't really need them, but they are nice to have. They are very nice to have. I use that compressed paper, like the little tablets, and those, basically you drop them in some water, they soak up the water and they turn into a wipe. Yeah, they are definitely nice to have. Number 21, a journal or a sketchbook. Yes, that's a nice luxury to have. It's a good way to distract your mind, just get your thoughts out. I've done it, not with a book, but on my phone. I've done a couple trips where I've journaled into my phone. And it's a nice distraction, and it does capture the moment that you're having. It's a nice luxury to have. Number 22, a flask for whiskey or wine or something like that. That depends on the area you're in. You can't always do that. You're not allowed in some areas to do that. In others you are. But yeah, it's nice to have. If you've had a nice long day and you just want to have a little sip of something, that's a nice luxury item to have. Number 23, I have written down coffee rocket because this is one of the things I consider a luxury item. But some kind of coffee filter where you can bring fresh ground coffee and make an actual drip style coffee. There's many ways to do it. French presses. There's the little bags that you put in the coffee rocket. There's a lot of options for that. To me, there's some okay instant coffee, but nothing beats a good cup of coffee if you are indeed a coffee drinker. If not, just bring some actual tea bags with you, light, and they're easy to clean up. So something like that really makes your morning. I had that trip where I was on a Chuck Hyper trail, and it was a rough morning. Like, I didn't have water at my campsite. There was a little bit of water, but there was like frogs swimming in it. So I didn't want to use it if I didn't have to any more than I had already done. So I was like, I'll just hike down to the next spot where I get along a bigger creek. And there was all this blowdown. It took forever to get there. And I just went down into the creek because really the only place I could sit. And I sat in the bed of the creek and I pulled out my stove and I just made a nice cup of coffee. And just the time to boil the water and filter the coffee and just sit there and enjoy it. It helped me get back into the right frame of mind. So it was an awesome luxury thing to have. Number 24, binoculars. That's pretty cool. I've taken binoculars kayaking when I remember. And for me, with kayaking, you are on like usually big open things of water and you're looking across at birds or whatever, and it just helps. But yeah, I can see that if you want binoculars for even light stargazing or bird watching, they're a little bit heavy, but if you're into that kind of thing, very nice luxury. And then number 25, they just had it listed as Frisbee. Anything like that, though, is a nice luxury item to have. I guess that could be bundled in with games, but I've never taken a Frisbee, but Dragon and I did a hike in Loyalsock State Forest back during the pandemic, and we got to camp. It wasn't a big trip. It wasn't like really, really long. We just wanted to get out. So we got to camp relatively early. We could have just gone back to the car. Like we're that close, but we got to camp relatively early and we got set up and we were just taking our time and, doing whatever. And we're like, oh, we should, too bad we didn't bring a game or something like that. So what we did is we didn't have a Frisbee, but we took 2 sticks and put them in the ground like horseshoes. And then we found these nice triangular rocks. They weren't perfect triangles, but they're pretty close. So you could hold them like a horseshoe. And then we threw the rocks at the stick and tried to get them close. We just called the game Rocks. We did that for an hour. It was a lot of fun. Just something different to do. So yeah, that's the list of 25 camp and luxury items that I found online from 4 different websites. Some of them, like I said, are a little bit weird. The ones I consider really luxuries would be the camp chair. Let's see, what was in this? The camp chair, coffee rocket, like coffee filter, a Kindle, book, something like that, and maybe the camp shoes. The other ones are nice, but like wipes, really great thing to have, but I have that anyway with the compressed paper that I use. So some of them are cool, but and again, some of these like the stove, trekking poles, a hammock if you're using it to sleep in. Not luxuries, need those. What do you guys think? What are some luxury items that you carry with you that other people might think are weird? I have seen people carry things like bags of potatoes, frying pans. Some people carry weird things just to carry weird things. It's just a guy who carried like a fridge up a mountain. I don't know why. I forget. It was one of the big mountains. I don't know why, but he did it. There was somebody that was doing the AT with a weed whacker or leaf blower or something like that last year, just to do, not really luxury, but just to do it. Some of the, I did see years ago, I was car camping in Francis Slocum State Park, and they've got this really nice walking area. And I had a site up on top of this, it's like on top of this knoll. So I went up and I was camped up there. I might have been hammock camping. I'm pretty sure I was hammock camping at that time. And I was set up there and it was getting late. And when I'm in a state park, especially someone who's got like a lake and there's lights and stuff like that, I'll go down after sunset. I'll go for a walk and go down to the lake and just hang out and just watch. And it's just nice. And as I was walking down to the lakeside, down the camp road, you pass the other loops. And as I was walking by, I looked over and these people had a inflatable projector. They were watching a movie. It wasn't loud or obnoxious or anything. I just looked at it and I was like, that's luxury right there. And I have seen people do small projectors when they're backpacking. If you can find one that's battery operated and it's not real heavy, that's not a bad thing to take. That'd be cool. We'll make that number 26. Let me know what you guys think. I know it's a little bit shorter episode, but there's only so much you can talk about these things sometimes. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think would be a good luxury item. Or like I said, anything that you take with you that other people think is strange, but you think is just a necessity. I'd love to hear it. You can reach me at hike.files@gmail.com. That's going to do it for me for this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you in the next.